Direction for Our Times features the Interior Life podcast, which is a backpack production sponsored by Aging with Dignity and Icona Resorts.
Hello, my name is Catherine Ann Clark, and we're talking about spirituality. Now, this is a very special time because it's Christmas time. And they say on St. Patrick's Day, every man's an Irishman. Well, on Christmas, everyone is a Christian. We think about baby Jesus in the manger. We think about the fact that we follow a star. And if we are following that star in our life, it's leading us through life. Our eyes are up. So we're experiencing life with all of its difficulties and joys, but our eyes are always on heaven, the next world, the next life. I mean, it's absolutely a mystical explosion at Christmas time. You think about the infant baby Jesus, a poor family, immigrants. He's in a manger. And yet they're in paradise too. Why? Because there's service, there's care, there's providence. God has looked after them. If you have a mother who's safe, holding an infant in her arms and the baby's fed, and there's a father nearby seeking to protect, there's not much wrong with any story that looks like that. We live our own imperfect stories, of course, that's not always the case. But if you have those few components, you can recognize that providence exists. Every baby is welcome somewhere. Every baby can be cared for. That's our hope. Many of us are practicing Catholics. Many of us maybe had to leave the church in order to come back to it in a fresh way. Many of you might be sacramentally sustained or non-sacramentally sustained, but baptized Catholics. And on this day, we're following the star together. There is a recognition that there is something bigger than us. Now, when you think about baby Jesus, picture yourself picking him up out of his manger and holding him in your arms. When your family members have a baby, the first time you lift that child and hold him in your arms, or your own child, it's amazing. It's a life separate to yours, sent for different purposes and different plans. But this life you're holding also calls on you in some way to help with the protection, with the care, with the formation. You can contribute something to the well-being of any baby you hold in your arms. There's always a way and always an ask, really, from all of us. But as you're holding, now picture yourself holding baby Jesus in your arms. You're looking at this infant and you're thinking, what a life you will live. What a life you will live. This little infant is going to impact in ways unimaginable. You're just looking at a baby. And look what came because Christ came. We heard an infant's cry, in the manger. That infant was crying. But it was really God saying, I'm here. I've come. I'm with you. I'll never leave you. We go from baby Jesus at that first Christmas to Jesus Christ in every tabernacle, waiting for us, hoping, saying to us, don't leave me, please. Babies don't like when they're left. And I think Christ truly present in the Eucharist wants us to not leave him too. And I think that's often the message from him. Just don't leave me. And he's not saying that people in the church are perfect. He's not saying that. He's asking for renewal on the whole church. In the hearts of people, yes. But I think on this Christmas, we can acknowledge that Christ needs renewal in the structure, the institution of our church. And are you part of that? You can be by simply looking at the infant Jesus and saying, I won't leave you. I won't leave you. And I won't leave your church. But I won't pretend that everything's perfect in it either. So we're holding a dynamic tension there, aren't we? We're having to hold the fact that a lot of what we like in our institutional church is true, and there are a lot of things that we don't like. about our institutional church, and those too are true. So we're holding a paradox, great holiness and extraordinary hypocrisy as well. The whole thing needs renewal, right? Okay. We follow a star, my friends. It beckons us forward. It doesn't tell us to go backwards. We'll never find the infant Jesus if we go backwards. We have to follow the star and keep going. Now, when you were a little baby, somebody looked into your cradle, wherever it was you were lying, and said, "She's gorgeous. He's beautiful. Congratulations. It's good that he's here. It's good that she's here." And if you're looking at you in your little crib as an infant, and you pick yourself up and hold yourself in your arms, what would you say to that little baby? You would say, "You're welcome. I'm glad you're here. Um, your life's going to be a mixed bag. You're going to be good at some things and struggle with others. You're going to be important to somebody. Who are you important to today?" Those are the things you think about at Christmas, because even if you aren't within 100 miles of any religion, you're a follower of the star. You're called to be a follower of the star, meaning bring love somewhere. Bringing love, bringing care, bringing relief, bringing compassion, bringing charity, bringing kindness, bringing a pardon to somebody. Who can you forgive today? Who can you forgive today? What can you let go today and be free of? Remember, if you're holding that little baby that's you, what would you say to yourself today? What is that baby hoping you'll do today to change your situation, your circumstances, to bring peace to your heart? It's Christmas. In Christmas time, God's generous. And so if you need something for yourself, it's the time to ask. What do you need help with? Ask. What does someone else need? Ask. This divine life that we share with God is real. It's true. There are no separations between heaven and earth. This is a day for everyone to feel loved and to offer that love back out again. Christ wants you to feel love. I love you and I don't even know you. I don't see you. I just know you're listening. And so I can feel you here in the moment in some way. You're loved. You're good. You're meant for wonderful potential. Whatever your circumstances are, I ask God to help you to know how to improve them, rejoice in them, and recognize that you're surrounded by the providence that protected Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus. God bless you and Merry Christmas.
As a special Christmas gift, we are delighted to release this recording of the booklet entitled An Invitation, as read by the author Catherine Clark. This booklet is a backpack production in collaboration with the Apostolate of the Returning King. Listen to the end of this podcast to hear details on how you can order copies of this booklet free of charge.
An invitation. In order to maintain God's Eucharistic presence in the world, we require a group of like-minded people who will provide companionship for Christ. The only qualification is that the person is willing to sit in front of a tabernacle or in an adoration chapel for 30 to 60 minutes once a week. We often build up to this in how is this different from what we currently might be doing in Eucharistic adoration? Well, there is no difference. If we are already doing this, we are doing our part to preserve the presence of Christ for the next generation. There is no requirement that the persons be practicing Catholics. The requirement is that we are willing to sit in the company of God. We believe that God is present in the consecrated host, remaining with us physically and supernaturally, not just for Catholics, but for the whole world and for every person in the world. As Catholics, we become obliged to protect this presence of the divine in the world. We appeal to all people of goodwill who believe, even just a little bit, in the presence of Christ in the Eucharist. We ask for their help. This is not Mass or communion or a communion service. We are simply sitting, praying, reflecting, and being present. Together, we can provide our own ministry of presence for Christ. We do this so that Mary, the Mother of God and the Mother of us all, can help us to keep her Son present this way in all parts of the world. A lot of people sacrificed to pass our faith on to us, and we need to do our part too. Now, maybe you have doubts. Why should anyone believe that Jesus Christ comes back under the appearance of bread and wine at the moment of consecration in every Mass? Why? Who would believe this? Well, Catholics believe it on faith, yes, but we are helped in that faith by the countless miracles of the Eucharist, often in which the host begins to secrete human blood. This has been confirmed many times through independent testing. That stated, those of us who have a relationship with Christ in the Eucharist don't need testing. We don't need physical miracles for that matter either. We know this is true through a far more subtle manner. Have you ever been asleep and felt the presence of a loved one nearby? You say, "Are you there?" And the person answers, "Yes, I'm here." There was no noise, just a quickening of your awareness. Or perhaps you felt the presence of a loved one who had gone before you in death. People often report a strong sense of their loved one's presence in a moment or in a dream. They experience consolation, comfort, direction, warning, counsel, a shared joke remembered in such a way that one might even laugh out loud. He was so funny, one might think, or she loved me so much. All human relationships are flawed, but usually there is a core of love, connection, and esteem. In truth, we can really miss being loved by those we care about when they're gone. Eucharistic adoration is something like that, only much more subtle, but far more powerful too. The consecrated host is a porthole to the other side, to heaven itself. All the distortions of our faith and all the mistakes of many people in our religion cannot detract from this reality. The presence of Christ in the Eucharist does not have to be explained to those who remain close to it. We know God is there. We get our answers there, our encouragement, comfort, and lights of wisdom and direction. We can make our decisions there or check them with Christ. So many moments of knowing, of spontaneous gratitude occur for us while sitting in front of a tabernacle or the Eucharist exposed for adoration. We know Christ is there. The experience is extremely personal to us, and our time there is spent thinking about our lives in the presence of God. But how will we know for sure that God is there? Could you make a decision to believe us for 1 month, to trust us? Simply accept that we, those who remain close to Jesus in the tabernacles around the world, know. We know He is there. We have seen too many quiet miracles in our lives and in the lives of our families and those for whom we pray. Imagine you are willing to help us maintain the promise of Christ, that He will remain with us even until the end of time. Our part is to show up for Him, just as He shows up for us in our toughest moments. And He does. What could be wrong with going into a Catholic church or chapel for 30 to 60 minutes once a week and sitting quietly? At the end of the month, you could then decide if you wanted to believe us for another month. There are no demands here. There's no downside to this. And we really need your help. You do not have to do anything else or talk to anyone. This is totally personal, but you will be strengthening the protection around the Eucharist. This is not a drill, as they say. You will become another person who shows up for Christ when someone takes responsibility for opening a small chapel with the permission of their bishop so that others in the future can be in the presence of God in the Eucharist. If you have strong negative feelings about the Catholic Church, maybe you have avoided it, possibly for many years. But this is not between you and the church or between you and anyone in the church. The human church will always be a bit of a mess, whether we like it or not. I think it was a mess in every other century too, but people remained faithful to God despite humans behaving poorly. And without the church, we would not have the Eucharist, so carefully protected from the time of Peter. My friends, this is between you and God. Conscience is man's secret core and his sanctuary. There he is alone with God, whose voice echoes in his depths. That's from our Catechism, number 1776. Nobody knows your full story but God. We stay close to the Eucharist because God's voice echoes in our depths, especially there. God will do this for you too. You are safe with God in your conscience, and he wants only your peace. Also, human mercy is a really far cry from divine mercy. Divine mercy is infinite for anyone who wants it. Divine mercy is infinite for you. You need only ask for it. Plus, to state it again, we really need your help. People who never step inside a church are often kind, disciplined, faithful, spiritual people. We know this. Everyone who is worthy of respect knows this, and this is why we appeal to you now. Especially if you're a baptized Catholic, please help us. Please come and help us. This is a simple way to retain the presence of Christ in the Eucharist so that people have somewhere to go when they need God's help. You don't have to re-engage with the sacraments to sit with Christ. There is no hidden agenda here. We want you to get what Christ is trying to offer for sure, but we do not want people feeling pressured to conform as opposed to transforming Christ. The benefit will be yours, but it will also be the next generations because one more person strengthens the protection around the Eucharist for the future. My friends, the churches are closing. We need chapels and we need people willing to go sit with Christ for short times. You do not have to talk to anyone again. You don't have to explain anything to anyone. Look, your past is your past. It's better than some people and potentially it's worse than others if you're the same as everyone. Your future is between you and God. If you have ever thought God might just be real, this is your chance to give it a little more thought in a place that packs the most spiritual power on the planet if people would just go there. The most astonishing mistakes and crimes have been committed by people, clergy and lay people alike, who claim to represent God. I mean, there can't be anyone who's not sorry that happened. Ultimately, my friends, nobody gets away with anything. And we cannot blame God for the crimes of humanity. God didn't commit these crimes. We, broken and imperfect humanity, recognize that God is going to have something to say about hypocritical actions and attitudes and about everyone who distorts them for personal or selfish gains. These people will be accounting privately and directly to God if they manage to get away with their actions here. Wounded people can behave terribly, and their arrogance and superiority are just embarrassing. It's also offensive. Ignore people like that and help us to keep Christ in the Eucharist accompanied. Remember that most priests are committed men trying their very best to keep the sacraments available to us in very strange times. These priests need our help, and it is our privilege to help them. What happens to our church is up to every one of us today, not just to priests. It's time for us to step forward. In summary, ask yourself if you can help us, help our Heavenly Mother Mary to protect the presence of Jesus Christ on earth. Many, many churches are closing, and this is not going to stop. If you believe it a little, or think there's even a chance it might be true, then please find a Catholic church or Eucharistic Adoration Chapel and sit there and talk to Christ. Accompany him, be with him. Just keep him company. If you're worried about what to do, just walk in and sit down. Our custom is to genuflect before we sit, which means we briefly go down on one knee or we bow before Christ present in the Eucharist. Now look, if your mind runs in circles, bring something to read, because bring this writing. Maybe you could bring this little booklet if you want it. We'll give you as many as you want. You can bring a rosary and just hold it in your hand. And if you don't have one, we'll send one to you. You can bring any spiritual book, or you can bring a Bible, the thing that unites us all Christians. You can start with any prayer you remember, any prayer at all. Our Father, Hail Mary, Glory be, Angel of God, my guardian dear. You can simply sit and think about your life, your day, your relationships, your family, or your goals. Just go. Really, just show up for Christ, and for your sake too, but also to help preserve God's presence in the Eucharist during this time of challenge. If you have questions about God's true presence in the Eucharist, you can contact us and we'll try to help you understand that religion is intended to serve something that already exists, your personal relationship with God. It already exists. It is right now. Religion should never harm your relationship with God, ever, who is, we believe, uniquely present in the Eucharist in a way that he's not present anywhere else on earth. If you're reading this or listening to this, then you should assume Jesus Christ himself is inviting you personally. Consider this moment your invitation. No drama. This is no big deal. Just go, and the Jesus of Scripture, who healed, loved, forgave, encouraged, and drew people to peace with supernatural graces that remain available today. He is there. This is the truth. We really need your help. But while he was standing a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion for him and ran and embraced him and kissed him. Luke 15:20. We believe in the real presence of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. We believe that Jesus Christ is present in the consecrated host, not symbolically, but truly. We believe this divine presence of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist is the same person who walked on the earth as reported in the New Testament. We desire to demonstrate our fidelity to Jesus Christ by offering him companionship. We ask you to join this fellowship of recognition and love for Jesus Christ. We need your help because churches are closing, and we need to retain the presence of Christ on earth so that Jesus, who's here today because of the people who went before us, can be there for our kids and their kids tomorrow, partially because of our help. Thank you. You're invited. I've just read a book called An Invitation, and these are available for free, and you can order them at the site that's there for you. So if you want copies of this book, just go to the site and order it. Please help us truly. It's, many people have left the church because of the crimes of clergy, and while those atrocities are tough to get past humanly, Christ in the Eucharist didn't do that, and most priests are trying to help us to have access to the sacraments. Right now, this is urgent. If you want this book, great, we'll send them to you. Please help us.
Thank you for listening to the Interior Life podcast, which is a backpack production sponsored by Aging with Dignity and Icona Resorts.